doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream starts, and then I edit them here for you live using DxO Photolab 8. This is an opportunity to see the tools in DxO and my approach to editing and my workflow, and hopefully you find it educational as well as entertaining to some degree. And I also like to offer suggestions on, let me rephrase that. Uh, how I would compose the scene or shoot the scene maybe a little differently. And it's not a critique at all. It's simply just, everyone has their own vision. And a lot of you have said that it's helpful when I do add a little bit of some suggestions or ideas of how I would shoot the same scene. For example, I'll notice like maybe your shutter speed should have been faster. That might be kind of a technical thing, or excuse me. Um, Maybe there's some distracting element in the composition that I would have cropped out or brushed out one way or the other. Don't take them as critiques, but just simply as just different ideas on the same scene. Because after all, they're your image, your vision, and I didn't take the photo. I wasn't there, so it's very different, right? It's very different. Monday morning quarterbacking, as we call it here. All right. I have some images, and I've downloaded them. Let me see if I can pull up the right screen. And of course, I do want to disclose I am an affiliate for DxO, meaning, if you use any of my links below, and there's also a 15% coupon uh, to, discount that I'll earn a commission if you do decide to purchase DxO. It is my favorite editor of choice, and I believe it produces the best results, and that's why I use it almost exclusively. There's always going to be things I need to go back into Lightroom, Photoshop, but for the most part, for straight editing, I found DxO to be the easiest workflow for me and produces the best results. And it just gets better and better with every revision and update. Okay. Oh, I gotta adjust the screen so you can see the sliders and stuff. Let me do that real quick, and we'll go to there. Okay, so that makes the fonts and and sliders and everything a little bigger for you guys. I'll just close this side. Actually, that side is useful sometimes, but let's go ahead and start with the first one. And right away, I noticed there's a little icon here telling me that I need to download the optics module. And this is one of the main reasons I think DxO does produce better results is their DxO optics modules, which are dynamic in nature in correcting lens aberrations and adjusting sharpness, not globally, but specifically for that lens and camera combination. So while that's downloading, I just thought I'd explain a little bit about the DxO module. It's not just a global thing. It's actually a very dynamic, intelligent way of improving the results of the lens, and it really takes rather mediocre lenses and make them almost like a pro lens. All right, it's downloading a little slow. Hopefully my internet connection's okay and you guys can see and hear me okay. But we'll wait for that to finish. And this image is a JPEG, so I'm not sure if this has been edited yet or not. Uh, it looks like I'm just glancing at it. It looks like there has been some editing because typically, in the background, you don't get this stark of a contrast on the light rays. But nonetheless, I'll do a little bit here, and right away I noticed this is a long exposure, 5 seconds, and yeah, I can see just basically motion blur. So probably this was handheld, but that's okay. You shoot with what you got on hand, right? And this is a beautiful scene. So I think this might be a bench here. And then we have a little bit of a glow here, probably some uh, artificial lighting like a lamp. And then in the background, it's interesting. There's a lot of light coming in from the back here. So there's probably some buildings or something back here. There's certainly a structure here, maybe a church, just based on the double doors, right? And maybe a werewolf over here or a tree stump. Either way, I've been watching a lot of ghost videos, real life ghost videos on YouTube. So I'm always looking for like little things here and there, or I'm kind of tuned into that right now. Compositionally, this tree is a little bit heavy on the right side. So the first thing I always do is I look at the composition of the image and try to crop as little as possible, but uh, I don't hesitate to crop to what I think would be the best composition for a scene. And I always look for balance in the scene. Like, does one side feel a little bit too heavy than the other in sheer mass, like a tree, or in lighting, right? So there's a very strong light source here, but it's offset nicely with the shadows on the right side. And I think I might do a vertical crop. Let's stick with the same ratio and just get rid of that tree altogether. Try and balance the scene. The bench in the front is, or whatever that is really of no consequence to the scene. It doesn't add any information. That's the other thing I like to do is uh, try to minimize the scene. Less is more type rationale, but also uh, include as much information as possible about the scene to give everything in there context, or the subject or the mood context. But in this case, I didn't see any reason to keep the bench or this tree. And there's also that weird kind of glow over here, which doesn't seem to really match. Maybe I'll balance this tree with this tree. But I want to try to center this artificial, this building in the back. So just a slight tighter crop. All right, so the other thing with images, they're two-dimensional, so I try to layer the scene if possible to give it a more three-dimensional kind of feel to it. So meaning foreground, midground, background. Okay, I think that works. So we have good balance with the lighting and the shadows and the trees. This is still a little bit heavy, this overhang, but uh, I like to keep things centered, particularly when there's an artificial structure, to maintain some form of symmetry sometimes. Not that that's critical, but it's just kind of my style is balance, symmetry, these kind of things. But I think this works. Okay. As far as the lighting, it's already very contrasty and punchy, but I love these greens and almost, these are brown, but brown is maybe a darker shade of red sometimes. So green and red are nice complementary colors. So I think I might try and play off of that a little bit. And then up here we have mostly monochromatic, just whites and blacks. So I'm going to use a local adjustment tool. And the image is exposed, I think, properly for the scene, so I don't need to do any kind of global adjustments. But usually I like to look at the overall exposure, and then I'll make a global adjustment either in exposure or white balance. But both of those seem to be pretty okay here. So I'm going to go with this, and then I'm going to pick maybe one of the green areas. I can't really see. Let me turn off. Well, I can't turn off the mask until I make an adjustment. Let me make a minor adjustment here. So I'm going to select the greenest part, maybe this. Okay, let me go back and show the mask. And then I'm going to tighten up the chroma, which is the color masking, and just try and only pick as much of the green as possible. So I have to go pretty high up because there's normally I like to stay at 55 or 60, but because the colors are very, very muted and it's a JPEG, uh, I have to crank that up a little more. And then let's go down here and just select the greens and see if we can bring those up a bit. Okay, now I'm going to do another control line. So I'm going to do a plus, but this time I'm going to select sort of the brownish areas. Maybe, let me just give it a little push here. Turn off this mask. I'm going to look for sort of the most brown area. Maybe right about, 'cause there's a little hint of shades of green or tint. There's a light green tint even in the brownish areas. And then try tightening up the mask again. I'm going to move this up just to capture more. And maybe also do a little bit on the luma or brightness. And here I'm going to push the, I selected red here. I'm just going to push the reds. Now, let me turn off the mask. Now, I mentioned I see a little bit of a green tint in here in the reds that I want to emphasize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to green. I'm going to shift this, try to take out some of that green tint. Yeah, that worked pretty well. Now, should I saturate that some? Just a little bit. Well, not a little, but a lot. I have to do a lot because the colors are very, very muted. I think that looks good. And then I can separate it even more by going a little darker or a little brighter. So let me see, going a little darker. Mm, how about the brightness? Okay, I think, yeah, I like that better. Okay. Uh, Now I see some oranges up here also, like hints of red. I'm gonna use those to kind of complement or accent the ground also. Uh, like this leaf up here. So I'm gonna use just smaller control points for these because they're kind of random in the image. See if I can find some more. Make these smaller. There's one there. There's definitely one here. I'll turn that down a little bit. Okay, and I don't see any on this side, but let's see if we can just go to the reds and we'll spread this out a bit just to capture more of the orange. If I'm seeing it right, sometimes your eyes can deceive you. Yeah, that looks good. There's a little bit here maybe. And let's increase the luminance. Okay, this one's a little bit hot here in the middle. So I'm just going to move that off. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that. It's a little distracting. Okay. And I'm going to tighten this up because that red is kind of spreading a little bit onto the bark. There's a little bit there. Tighten that up a little bit there. All right, good. Now, another thing I might do is these church doors, they're usually red or brown or some color. Assuming that's a church, I'm not sure. I'm just going to use a local control point here. See if I can tighten up the chroma and then saturate that. Let's do a global saturation just right there. All right, and then I'm going to increase the shadows over here on the right side because right now there's a light source over to the right that I cropped out that's sort of filling the shadows in over here. So I'm going to use a control line and see if I can just remove that sort of fill in. Let me move this over here. And I'm just going to pull on the blacks and then push the midtones and highlights up again. Tiny bit on the shadow. Let's try contrast now. I'm going to back off the micro a little bit. Let's try this. Let me see what it looks like without. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to do the same thing right in this corner here. Do a little control line or control point. And let me zoom in. I'm going to select this brighter area up here and just pull the highlights in a bit and the midtones. Let me shrink this down a bit. Add one there. And maybe a little bit of clear view and some contrast. Okay, that's good. So I just want to emphasize this one beam a little bit more. And I like this little glow that I created here. And okay, I think I'm done. uh, let's do a side by side. All right, so here's the original on the left, and I think this works better as a vertical because, like I said, there's this giant tree here, plus this glow from some artificial lighting. Uh, I think that works. And then we'll just do a sweep this way. So that's the edit, that's the original. I think that looks pretty good overall. Um, let me let me look at one other option, maybe some clear view globally. Yeah. And then we'll push the highlights on a global scale. There we go. That looks good. Just a slight push in the midtones as well. Okay, now I'm done. So there's the edit. That's the before. There's the edit. Okay, that looks good. Nice. All right. Oops, where's my... So that was from John. Thank you, John, for sending that. Okay, we have another JPEG here. So this is wow, this is already heavily cropped and I think edited already. So it's not much I can do here. Uh there's some JPEG artifacts. If I were to do anything, maybe, I mean, these highlights are completely clipped, but I want to balance this a little bit. I'm going to just brighten the eyes a bit and try and saturate the yellows. Yeah, there's no yellow left. Let's do the same thing for the beak. Whenever I do birds, particularly like these eagles, raptors, that that particular type of bird, let's go to the oranges and spread this. Just pump that up a little bit. And I'm gonna see, let me see if I can denoise just a little bit. I can't use any of the fancy deep prime type denoising, but the regular denoising is fairly intelligent as well. Let me just denoise that. Okay. And then I'm gonna go back to the unsharp mask here and see if I can just bring a little bit of bite. That's kind of exaggerating the artifacts, but that's okay. I think just a little touch there, and then let's threshold it just a tiny bit. So I don't want to sharpen like the out of focus areas. And I I don't know if there's any hope of recovering any of these shadows either, but let me just give it a little boost. Yeah, it's not much there. Okay, a little bit down here. And then I'm going to try and bring the highlights down in the other areas. So I'm going to make a new control point and just bring these down a tad. And give them a little more contrast. And there's a hint of green in this tree. There's like moss growing on it. Maybe I can do something with that as well. Let me see. Let's start a new control point. I don't think it's going to work, but I'm going to try. So let me tighten up the chroma and luma mask. So I'm only selecting the darker, greener, reddish areas. Maybe a little there. And do the same thing. Let's pick the greens, but we're going to push it into the reds and oranges as well. and just push that up a bit. And then maybe give it some micro contrast. Just to give it a little bite. Okay. All right, so with this JPEG, there's too many clipped highlights for me to do anything with the eagle's head other than to saturate the beak and the eyes a little bit if I can, and then this tree. So I think that works. So let's do it side by side. Maybe do a split view. This might be easier to see the differences. So just pay attention to this tree and the eagle's beak and a little bit of lighting down in here. So as I go over, I like how the tree came out. Just toning those highlights down a bit, I think, helped. And then on the eagle's head, bringing the shadows up just so that they're a little bit closer to the highlighted area. And then, of course, the denoising. If we zoom in, you can see, just the regular denoise. It does actually not a bad job for these kind of things. But of course, I had to go back and add a little bit of unsharp mask just to make sure that some of the details did stick. So I think, yeah, that looks better. It's mainly the eyes and beak are sort of the things that stand out the most, and that's where our eyes go first, right? When we look at an image of a bird. Okay, let me just stop here for 1 second, and I need to arrange my screen a little bit. Uh, okay, and let's see, we got one here from Baby Paul. So I do need to download the optics module for this. It's another JPEG. What is A6400 with a Viltrox 20 millimeter, which is not in the list. So I'm not going to use. Let's see. Let's just pick this one. It's not a good idea because the Sony E20 f2.8, that's a G lens. I don't think I need the optics module. It's not covered, the Viltrox 20. They are starting to cover some Viltrox lenses, but I know this one's not in the list. So we're just gonna do everything manually. Okay, so we have some potted plants. So the question is, again, going back to giving everything context, uh, I like I like the left side. I like that sort of parade of colors in the background. And the right side, I like this line here. I'm not crazy about these benches or small tables, but they all do kind of work together overall. And then the subject itself, let's see. I don't really have any flowers front facing. These are all side angles, and a lot of them haven't even bloomed yet. And then some of them are already done. Hmm. So I think I'm going to go with this left side and work with this parade of colors and the subject here. This because this side of the plant, but this side has this a little more front facing, but then the background's not as interesting. So let's um let's try a square crop. Just stick with this. And we need a slight tilt here. All right. So the light in the background is pretty even with the foreground, so I'm going to darken the background a bit. I think I'll just do it with some control points. And get those. Let's just do a simple linear pull on the exposure. Oh, not too much because it's a JPEG. See, I'm starting to get some banding here because the JPEG just doesn't have that luminance data. Then we'll pull the blacks. And then I'm going to push the highlights back a bit. Okay. Good enough. This flower got a little banding on it. Maybe I'll just brush it. Okay. All right, let's try and saturate and brighten up the sort of these purplish colors. So maybe another control point, and we're going to tighten up the chroma. Okay, good. Let's just do a global. Well, I guess I can I'll just spread this a little bit and push it. Make them a little brighter. Just a hair. All right, and then the greens. Let me tighten up the chroma again. I'm just going to darken this whole area down here. I'm trying to separate the this purplish color with the greens. Let me go back to this one. Give this just a little more push. Okay, I don't like this pole. See if we can just minimize the look of that pole. Okay. And maybe one more down here. Just pull that in a bit. Okay. I think that's about the best I can do there. So let's do just a swipe. So there's the original with this entire thing. And my problem was these little tables or benches, whatever these are. I did like this, but ultimately I decided this sort of moe looking collage here in the background. I kind of like that. It kind of reminds me of like a moe painting. And then we'll do a side by side. And again, I tried to brighten up the flowers and darken the green leaves on the subject itself. And I think that makes for a cleaner image overall. That's a tough one. It's a very busy scene. And I think if you could have got closer or isolated this a little more, that would have been ideal. Especially if you get one of the flowers facing the camera instead of most of them are just sort of you're looking at them from the side. Okay, uh, let's see what else we got. Okay, there's one here from Andy. Oh, I'm sorry, Randy. Right along, Randy. Oh, hey, Randy. Randy's a long, long time viewer. It's been with me, I think, from the very beginning, 10 years ago. All right. Let's see. It looks like a sparrow. So apply basic preset. And I like to do square crops a lot of times with birding. And we're just going to come in a little bit tighter. And my basic preset again is just basically optical corrections and denoising. So let's see. Uh, this left corner here is a nice line going into the subject. And then we'll just do some local adjustments maybe. So eyes, beaks, and talons is usually where I start with the bird. So we'll bring that up. Let's bring that up even more. Gonna add some clarity. I'm sorry, clear view. And some micro contrast. Maybe push the highlights a bit. There we go. Let's see. I want to get this right where there might be a little bit of color. Okay, and then let's do the beak. I think we just have to pull the highlights a bit on that. We'll tighten that up a bit. Right about there looks good. And then the talons, we can use the same control point. Oh, that's too much. So we'll make a new one and bring that in. Just a hair. Okay. Just gonna fill the shadows a bit more, just very slightly. Just a little bit here. And then I'm gonna pull sort of the brightness off down in here. Just do a linear pull. Maybe a little bit there. Just it's kind of like an uneven vignette. Let me back that off. And I need to pull this in a bit. I'm getting a tiny bit of haloing. All right, now globally, I'm just going to add a little bit of brightness overall because it just looks dark to my eye. And then when we look at the histogram over here, you can see there's just a lot pushed over here. So I'm going to look at the reds here And yeah, the greens are fine. I think I'm gonna push the reds, which would be mainly the bird in this branch. I think just gonna increase the exposure so that the reds start to get into the mid range here. Maybe a little bit less. Okay. So I don't care about the greens and everything else. And we have a little micro contrast, maybe a little bit of pull on the blacks. No, 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 no. Just a tiny bit. All right. Maybe a slight push on the midtones. Okay. All right. I think I'm done. So I'm going to export this one because uh, DxO Prime needs to process. So let's use the new D prime X3 or D prime 3. Mm, I'm going to do a loop. I'm going to compare. So I'm going to look at the noise here versus XD. I like the XD with the extra detail a little better. Okay, so let's export this. Original image folder. I'll just call it DxO. As a JPEG, sRGB, preserve color details. Okay. And when that's done, it should only take about 10 or 15 seconds. All right, good. So I'm going to reset this and use this as a reference. And we'll compare it to the output. There it is. All right, so here's the original on the right and the edit on the left. Basically, I just had to bring the bird out, make it a little brighter, right? And then DxO did all the rest. And if I make these about the same size, let's do a swipe. But I think DxO did a nice job of, reducing the noise and bringing the detail back. That all looks really good to me. So we'll just do a swipe. Yep, very nice. Okay. Uh, see what else we got. There's one here from Tim Adams, and um, thank you, Tim, for the coffee. Tim sent me $5 today or yesterday. I appreciate it. uh, okay, so where's my stuff? Let's see. Let's apply basic preset. And then I'm going to brighten this up just so I can see what's inside. Because this was exposed for the exterior, outside the windows. So the question is, how can I compose this? Okay, there's a nice line here leading up to the window, and I think this is like artificial lighting in here. It's kind of nice, but there's nothing in the on the shelves inside. So this is either a brand new place that's, just kind of starting out, and they haven't filled all the shelves yet because there's a lot of empty shelves. Okay, let me just apply a perspective correction, and then from here, did we see how much detail is left in the floor? So we have a cross pattern floor. This is a little bit tricky. This is a little tricky one. I do a lot of shots like this, but I usually do exposure blending where it's bracketed and or I use flash to kind of balance everything out. But with this is a single shot, so it's going to be a little tough. But I'm going to try. I'd like to use the luminosity mask but the problem is this is a film pack edition, and a lot of people don't have film packs, so I'm not going to use this. But normally I would use this to kind of select just the shadow areas. So we'll have to work with the regular control points, which does have a luminosity and chroma masking, but it's not quite as sophisticated as the luminosity masking that you get with film pack. But let me just start down here and go all the way up. We're going to tighten up maybe, maybe about there. Okay, let's try pushing the shadows now. Yeah, it's affecting in here. So what I might need to do, I might need to do this in two parts. Because when I used the control line, it was starting to make the window look a little bit mushy. All right, and then let's do new control points. So right now I combined the control line and control point to use the same settings. Uh, you can do that, but now I'm going to create a new one and just work with just this statue for now. Let's tighten up the luminosity mask again. Just bring that up. Interesting. I need to do something about this shine on the floor too. So let me go back to my original control point. See if I can. I might need to add some more. Maybe a new one. I'm going to make a new control point. Just give it a linear push with some clear view. So I want to brighten this up, but not lose the contrast. And then for the highlighted areas here, the shine on the floor, see if I can do the same thing. Not too much. It helps a little, but I lost the color. Let me see if I can bring a little bit of that back. A little bit, yeah. What over here? Nope. There was just a little hint of color left down here, but everything else is kind of blown out. How about over here? Nah. Oops. 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 Let me get rid of this one. But that does need, this side needs a little bit of clear view also. And maybe a slight boost of color. All right, let me go back to the global and make this brighter. And let's work on the window a bit. So some new control points for the window. And we're going to tighten up the Luma mask and then pull the highlights in if we can. And give it some clear view. And just tighten that up a bit. All right, I think compositionally, I've already kind of committed to this, but I don't know. I don't know how much more I can do. Maybe see if I can balance this out a little bit because it's a little bit heavy on the left side, right? In terms of luminance. So I want to balance the shadows and the highlights so that okay. I think that works. Just a little bit tighter over here. Trying to find a corner. I'm looking at this corner here to see if I can get a line in, but I don't want to bring too much. Okay, I think that's it. Uh, I'm going to export this one. Everything looks good there. Okay, set this as the reference. Let's reset it. Okay, so there's my edit there on the left. It looks, I think it looks okay. Um, yeah, I think that's much better. So obviously the perspective correction so that the lines are a little straighter, and then the balance between all of this shadow area with this very bright window I couldn't do much with the floor, unfortunately, but it'd been nice to get the floor to be all nice and brown, or this, sort of a oak oak color. Looks like these are oak stained, or it's a really nice floor. I mean, it's a really nice floor. That's why I kind of want to try to save it, but okay. So very good. Nice image, Tim. Let's try. We could do it. We could do just a swipe. Yeah, I think that came out good. Oh, I forgot to download the optics module. Well, so be it. It'd have been a little sharper if I did that, but I didn't. But I'll do it this time. So let me get this in. Okay. All right. So we have wow, that's a crazy sound. I don't like bugs. Oh my God. That's why I'm not like really big in the macro, is these bugs just creep me out. But I'll do my best here. So we got this typical, stick in the way. But man, look at the detail here. I really love the eyes. I think we can crop way in somewhere in here. We kind of lose the context of how long the legs are on this bug. Ooh, God. It's just all right. Did I apply my preset yet? I did not. Let me go to a square crop. Let's see if we can maintain. We don't need to see how long the legs are on both sides. I think that works right there. No. How about higher up? Maybe about there. Oh, but this guy, this stick, I got to get rid of that or minimize it. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to have nightmares tonight. But let's tighten up the Luma mask just a bit there and just work on this. Okay, that's good. And some clear view, definitely some micro contrast, and then a slight pull. Let's make a new control point. Let's bring the highlights in on the eyes a bit. Let me see if I do it this way. Okay, that's good. And then just let's accent some of the reds and greens. Tighten up the chroma mask this time. And go to the greens. Maybe just a little bit more. You guys have no idea. Every hair on my body is standing up right now. And I'm just trying to create a little more contrast here in the bug. Okay, the legs need a little bit of work. I don't know if I can highlight these legs very well. Let me try the auto mask. Let's see how far I get with that. Mm, not very well. Okay. So I'm just gonna use a small brush. Let me get rid of this. I'm gonna just try and stay inside. So I'm gonna reduce my brush size along the way or zoom in. Okay. Move this down. Okay. That's not doing it. Okay, did that do anything? Yeah, good. Maybe a little bit here. All right, I have to stop. I'm gonna export this. Uh, and then we'll do a side by side. Ooh, I just cannot. I'm just not good at bugs. Bugs. Ooh, they give me the heebie-jeebies. Uh, so I'm gonna reset this. Let's compare it to my edit. All right, so this edit, uh, basically, I just had to brighten the bug so you could see the colors and details of what it is. Particularly the eyes have this nice, typical honeycomb in the eyes. And then the legs, I wanted them to stand out a little more against the background. So that's why I just pushed the shadows a bit. It's a little bit of a sloppy job. If I took some more time, I could have done a better job there. But for the most part, you can see the legs were just too dark over here. So that's why I just pushed the shadows. I try to do it as gently as I can, and then staying inside of the legs with the brush so I don't get like this haloing. I kind of overlapped a little bit right there, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, I think that looks okay. So there's the original, and that's my edit. Let me just take a quick break here. I need to, yeah. All right. Okay. Just want to double check because the I didn't calibrate I didn't calibrate the monitor here on the left. So when I'm looking at the image on the left, it looks really oversaturated. But on my two other monitors that are calibrated, it looks okay. So hopefully what you're seeing in the stream looks good. All right, let's go to, so that was from Hung. Okay, Hung, thank you. Try not to send me any more bug pictures though. Ooh, just they just creep me out. But I did the best I can there. Uh, all right, so we have this is from Shri. This is I wonder, did you tell when let me see the date of this. The 20 what the heck? Oh, that's when the heck did you where did you go to get a shot like this? 'Cause I'm pretty sure there was no air show at Andrews Air Force Base because they fly right over my house. For like a week, it is so noisy here because I have these fighter jets and they're super loud, flying maybe 200 feet above my house for a week because they practice like a few days before and then they do the air show for 2 or 3 days. Anyhow, this is an easy one. Um, so let me just apply basic preset, and then I'm just gonna do maybe a 16:9 crop, and I think we can come in a little tighter like that, maybe even all the way this way. And so I'm gonna do kind of an opposite treatment to the highlights, where I wonder, yeah, let me just maybe a control line. I'm gonna select the whites and push. Okay. So I'm actually gonna push this brighter. See if clear view, I want to jack up the smoke too much, but that looks good. And then we'll treat the highlights on the plane a bit differently. So I'm going to tighten up the luma and the chroma. Okay. And just pull the highlights a bit. And some micro contrast. I don't think we really need clear view. So yeah, I'm going to leave that alone. And then a slight push in the shadows here. So again, we'll tighten up the chroma and luma a bit. These engines definitely could use a little bit of clear view. So I'm going to tighten up the luma and then crank up these quite a bit. All right, I think that's it. So let me export that. That looks good. We'll give that a minute. Oh, down at Langley. Dang it, that's not that far. How come I didn't hear about this, that they had an air show down there? I would have went. Huh. Oh my God. I got to keep up with that. There's schedules for this stuff. I need to pay attention. I always wait for the one that's like a mile from my house at Andrews. But Langley's, golly, that's not far. Uh, okay, so let me reset this and make this the reference image, compare it with the output. All right, so there's my edit. Uh, Pretty straightforward. A crop and then push the highlights on the smoke here, and then pull the highlights a little bit on the plane, and then a little bit of contrast onto the engines, and a slight push here. And if we punch in, we can just kind of compare the detail. Let me get it to something reasonable. But yeah, so we killed the noise, we pushed the details, pulled the highlights. Now I pulled the highlights, I mean, I hate to be a rivet, what they call a rivet counter when you do uh uh aerial type photography, of aircraft and stuff. But you can see the rivets now very clearly here. So we're all set. And certainly when you zoom out to a normal viewing, I think that works pretty well. All right, let's see what else we got here. See, that was the plane. I did these. All right, let's look at this landscape. Gosh, this landscape looks familiar. Is this John? Let me see who sent this one. Um, yeah, John follows. Okay, John. I'm starting to recognize your scenes, where you're shooting from. I remember there was like a really, oh, it's not there now. I thought there was like a little steeple or something up here. Okay. Um, so we have these kind of rolling hills coming into the center. What's down here? I guess it's either a trail or a stream. It's got to be a stream because all the trees are down here. Usually, when you start to see a gathering of trees and other kind of brush, there's a stream right there. But I can't tell. It's all dried out right now. And what is this? Is a fence line or something, right? Yeah, it's a stone fence. That's interesting. I like this. And then are those sheep or is that just brush? I think it's just brush. Okay. All right. So I'm just trying to see what information is in the image, so I can put together a composition that kind of makes sense and gives everything in the scene context. Um, I kind of like this layer here. So we have a sky, we have this mountain or this hill, and then this hill. And this crisscross down here with this wall, I think that was the intent. Maybe you're standing here and you're just pointing down. let me just back off a bit. Sometimes when you look at it small, you can kind of see the composition a little better. Uh, I'm gonna go with the top half. So let me get a basic preset in, and let's try 16 by 7 and push that up. Just give this a little balance here and here. Okay. So the clouds just need a little more bite. So let's tighten up the luma and give it some clear view and micro contrast. Okay, because the skies are pretty dark. It's about the right shade or luminance of blue. I'm kind of fine with that. Not that one. So let's tighten this up a bit. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna try and create some contrast. It's gonna be hard to do with the greens because greens are a little inconsistent. So let me try a control line. Let me pick a greenish area. Let me see the mask. I'm gonna tighten this up as much as I can. Okay. Let's see if I can saturate that a bit. Excuse me. Can I shift it? No, that looks terrible. All right. And then let's work with the reds. We'll do another control line. Hmm. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry, no sound. Oh, my bad. Anyway, what I was saying was, uh, I was having a hard time. I was trying to create some depth to the image and layering, and this was the only area of the photo that I felt like had a chance at that because the original image is it's kind of flat because it's high noon and the colors are very muted, so there's not much contrast. And there's really two separate scenes here. There's the scene down here with the trail, uh, and the fence line, and then there's the scene up here with the rolling hills. I didn't see a way to incorporate both of them. Uh, so that's why I separated it with a 16 by 9 crop and went with this. So I have a layer here, a layer here, a layer here, and a layer here, and then finally the layer here for the sky. And that was my thought process. And then I just tried to separate additionally with color and lighting um, to come up with that image versus, sort of this, it's a little bit flatter, low contrast versus this. Okay, let's go to the next one. I hope my audio is back on. I'm sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to download the optics module here. This one's from Jeff. OM3 and 12 to 45. Man, I wish I got the 12 to 45 with my OM3. That's my regret. Okay, let's edit this one. So we have springtime with palm trees. Interesting. Um, so the question is, let me get a basic preset in. It's very strong reds here, here, and here, and then pinkish reds. It's not much yellow here, other than in the greens. Some flowers here. But these palm trees kind of stand out to me. So I'm going to think, thinking maybe a vertical. Let me balance that. I kind of like these down here. If I can use that as a little bit of a foreground, be nice if they kind of wrapped around a little bit more. I don't think I got enough though. Okay, I think that works. And let's just do the sky first with a control line. Tighten up the luma just one notch there. Clearview didn't do anything. Highlights, ooh, not much. It's not much up there. How about just shifting the white balance? No, that's not looking too good. Tighten up. I'm trying to do it so I don't get like weird artifacts. So we're at 6,000. Let's try 55. It's not doing much. All right. There's nothing in the sky. Uh, going to Just going to give the shadows up here a little bit of a push and a little bit of warmth so it doesn't look like they're in the shadows. And then let's saturate the reds a bit more. I'll have to do that separately. What are we at? Let's go to 65. Okay. And then let's just do some spot. Maybe see if I can. This one is, oops. Get rid of that one. Just want to create a little more contrast. Let me work on the palm trees separately. Actually, right here looks good. Because what's bothering me about this composition is this trail right here and these rocks. So yeah, I'm gonna change the composition. Let's do. Let's just forget about the roses in the front and just go here. Come down. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. Uh, I went to Brookside Gardens, and one of the gardeners there, or people that work there, saw me taking pictures of the flowers. And he said, "You're taking pictures of those hydra, whatever." He knew the names of everything. I said, "Yeah, these are really pretty." And he was so excited, like he had so much enthusiasm how these flowers are blooming a little bit earlier than they normally do. Um, and it was really cool to see just how excited people are in their own little world, right? Or not world, but in their own genre. And the passion that they have for it is sort of the same passion that I have for like photography, this person had for doing plants. And it was really, really cool to see. So I want to just bring out some of the texture in this tree over here. All right, so let me see how we're doing. Maybe overdid it on the greens overall. So I'm just going to do a global pull because all the greens are a little bit strong. Okay, I think that's all I need to do. I'm going to export this because there's a lot of optical kind of things going on with this lens. And and reset this. Use as a reference. Okay, so the original here, it's a very subtle difference, right? But I just tried to, at first I want these palm trees to kind of stand out or be a little more front and center. Uh, and this shadow area down here and this trail is just distracting me from the palm trees. So that's kind of why I went with this wider crop to get rid of this part. I would have liked to have had these more in the foreground, but there's just not enough of it. Like if this wrapped around this way, it would have been a nice framing for the palm trees. Um, maybe a little vignette would help too. If I do that, let me see if I can make a little vignette. I'll invert that. Yeah, that helps a little. Let me export that. Give that a second to update. Okay, so yeah, just a little vignette I think helps. So that's the before, and then that's the after. So yeah, I like this. I like this crop a lot better. The vertical crop just did not work. All right. Thanks, Jeff, for sending that one. And wow, three more. Okay. So this one's from Shakabe. I have an event to go to today at 1 o'clock, so I'm just being conscious of the time here. Do I need, let me just try a preset and I have a blue heron. So, ooh, a little bit of clipping here. And then this big ass ugly tree. Let me try vertical crop because we don't really need that tree. Okay. And then let's do a control line down here. Pick some of the darker areas. Is there anything back there? No. It's just it's just some brush. So let's tighten that up a lot. We'll just try and do a black background maybe. Okay. And then I'm going to do a couple control points because we need to temper these highlights a bit. Let's do it more. There we go. And add some micro contrast. And then we need to bring up the shadows a bit. So let's try a little bit tighter on the chroma and luma. We'll just do a linear. Maybe a little bit of warmth. Oops, what are we at? 42. Let's go to about 45, 47. Yeah, that's good. How about the back of his head? A little bit there. Okay, this branch, I don't know if I can heal that. Let me just try. Hmm. What if we do repair? All right, that's not too bad. I'm going to resize this a bit. Oh, you can just never. All right, good enough. Um, Not great, but good enough for now. Okay, let's do a global brightening. A little more pull on the highlights. And let's go to the color. Let's go to the blues. Saturate those a bit. Maybe a slight shift. Yeah. And we'll give the oranges just a little more there. All right. Let me see where we're at. This is bothering me. This one. It's this one. Eh, I can't get that the way I want it exactly, but it's okay. Let me do, okay, that's getting there. I just wanna, all right, good enough. All right. Oh, man, that looks like crap. Let's just leave it. Okay, I'm going to just do a global on the, let's do a little bit of micro contrast there, and then just get rid of some of this stuff. Okay. Then a little bit of light, just a little light where they're standing. Where's that? I'm working way too hard on this. Then one more stick. Okay, let's export that. And then we'll do a side by side. All right. Other than really jacking up this area right here, if I would definitely spend a little more time here. I can do a much better job, but I'm a little bit pressed for time. But the main thing was just to brighten up the bird, particularly the shadows in here, and keep the background dark. And then try to recover some of the highlights that were clipped up in here. And let's see. We did okay on the sharpening. I think a little unsharp mask would make this just a little bit better. Yeah. So if I go here. Well, anyway, yeah, I would go back and do some unsharp mask on that. But otherwise, not bad. Look at the feather detail down in here. All the noise is gone from lifting the shadows. I would fix this area a little better next time. But overall, I think it's a cool image when you get them like in this kind of scene with a nice dark background, and they're calling out to somebody. And clearly, this tree doesn't need to be in the scene. All we need is the bird. All right, thank you, Shakay, for sending that one. And let's go to this one's from Larry. Okay, so we have a looks like a badger. So we'll just do a square crop on this one. Just come in a bit tighter, like that. Maybe, yeah, some put them at the top of the frame. See if I can temper these highlights a bit. I don't think I can. They might be kind of clipped. Yeah, these highlights are clipped. So uh, rather than control points, let me see if I can maybe. Uh, that doesn't work. I just don't have anything on the same focal plane to replace this stuff with. I always get into trouble when I start doing these kind of things. Hmm, all right. Just leave it. Okay. Actually, this is about the same right in here. I could probably use this. I'm going to try one more time. I'm sorry. I'm going to try one more time. So if I use this, I bet this would work. Ah, kind of, but I can't fix there. So we're just not gonna do it. Sorry about that. Let's just work on the badger. Bring up the brightness there. Give it some clear view, micro contrast, and we'll get to the eyes. right about there and there. And push the shadows. Okay. Right in there. Let's do a control line. Minimize the tree a little bit. That way. And then another control line. See if we can minimize this tiny bit. Hmm. Okay. One of these need to be smaller. Okay. Let's export that. Oh, it's a Cody Mundy in the raccoon. So it's a raccoon. Yeah, okay. It looks like a raccoon. That makes sense. Ah, use images reference. All right, so uh yeah, this highlight is killing me. I understand why you shot this. Otherwise, this would have been way underexposed. I mean, the raccoon. So the best thing I could do is basically just brighten up the raccoon. Uh, crop out this tree on the left. I kind of like this tree on the left in the sense that it does frame the scene a little better, but then they're just a little bit too small in the frame to kind of keep that idea. So I decided to just go with a much tighter crop. And I think if we look at, just zoom in on the badger, or keep calling it badger, we're able to cover some details there, particularly in the eyes, brightening those up, and then bringing the exposure of the badger to, kind of a middle gray, I guess is the way to put it. But that's a cool shot. Uh, oops. So do that. Let's go to the next one. I think the next one's the last one, and then I need to hustle. Okay. Whoops. I meant to do the optics module. Good old GX85 with a 7 to 14 Pro. Wow. All right. So we have some, I guess these are bluebells, but they're more violet. Um, okay, this stump is really distracting. So I'm gonna crop over here to the left. Let me just apply basic preset first. Let's do a square crop, and then I'm gonna get rid of that tree stump. And we need a little bit of a tilt. So I'm gonna come in. Okay, that works. So we have, oh, it's a little bit too much grass here. Maybe come in a bit tighter. Okay, that works. See if I can bring anything in the sky. I doubt it. I think the sky is just a little bit too overexposed. So we'll forget that. Oh, I guess it wouldn't hurt to bring the highlights in a tiny bit. Okay. Let's do a new control line and just pull the highlights down here. Give it a little saturation. Well, vibrancy, I think, would work. And then I'm going to, let's do a control point on these kind of violet color. And just increase those separately. Okay. And then I'm going to pull the blacks in down here just to make these a little more dramatic. Hmm. Maybe even do that. Pull back tiny bit on the white balance. Let me darken this area over here. Just the highlights. There we go. Oh, this white balance, there's just a little bit too much yellow. If I cool it off, or what do we got? 3. Let me go to about a 8. Okay. I'm just going to accentuate some of the shadows. Okay. Uh, the only other thing I might try, I'm just going to do a couple of things. Nah, that doesn't look good. But this vignette, maybe. All right. Let me export that. Then we'll do a side by side. Oh, images reference. Compare it to the output. All right, so on the original, this tree stump, I don't know, I just didn't think worked in the scene. So I just cropped over here to the left where the trail is to kind of bring your eye into this area, and then this tree and these bluebells or violet bells sort of frame everything else together, or brings everything together, I think. So I think that works. Um, so if we do a split view, that's the before. See, this is just such an eyesore to me versus, a little bit cleaner, more contrast, and a little bit of punch in the color. Oh, so Paul says, I use the tree stump as a foreground interest. Okay, I guess. It just doesn't work for me in this scene. I can see, usually if I'm going to put something in the foreground that isn't that interesting, like a tree stump, I would use it to kind of give scale to something else, maybe. Uh, but it just, I don't know. I would have left it out and not framed it in there personally in the original shot. Maybe if there was like some teacups or something on top of the tree stump, that would make it kind of interesting. But as it is, it's just that's kind of a boring thing to have in the image for me. Okay, let's do. I think that was the last of the edits. So thank you everyone for sending those in. Now, what I have here is sometimes you guys send your edits of the same image in. So let me see if I can dig those out. So this one here says that you want to critique. Everything looks good. Really good processing. Let me see. So yeah, we can do the rivet counting, good sharpening on the details, and then yeah, it's a very similar edit other than all of this negative space. That's why I did the 16:9 crop. And I can see that you kind of did some spot checks, like control points in here. So the lighting's a little bit uneven. So I'm just critiquing the editing, right? So the lighting's a little bit uneven or unnatural looking. It would make sense if it was a cloudy day, but this is a clear blue day, right? So if we look at my edit of the image, I didn't do that. I tried to keep the light as natural as possible, other than lifting the shadows here, because it's just a clear blue day. And then I accentuated the highlights here as you saw earlier. But yeah, on your edit, uh, yeah, I can clearly see there's some spot control points in here to boost the shadows, and you need to do that a little bit smoother. So you can do that if you want to brighten the shadow areas. Just use a bigger control point, and then reduce or increase. Yeah, just tighten up the chroma and luma masking, and that'll be a little bit smoother. Okay, let's see. I think. Oh, this is Shakabe's. So Shakabe and I did almost the exact same edit, and I can see you struggled a little bit in the same spot as I did, right in here, right? Uh, the shadow areas, okay, but that's cool. It's basically the same edit as I did. This was my edit, right? So I lifted the shadows a little more, but on Shakabe, uh, yeah, good job pulling the highlights and everything. It was just I just did on my edit, the push in the shadows is a little bit cleaner compared to yours here. You have a little bit of artifacts, but composition, everything is exactly the same. And then and the editing for the most part is exactly the same. I don't see any more. chicaves. It helps if I look at it this way. Let me sort by shot date. Yeah, I think that's it. Uh, okay. My image. Where's mine? My original. Paul says I sent mine during. Okay, let's just do a quick check. Uh, Let me see what's come in since the stream, but I do need to wrap this up, unfortunately, because I have an event to go to. Um, oh wow, there's a bunch of images came in. I have to do them next week. But this is okay. So I think he did a similar processing back here where you basically increase the contrast and pull the highlights down in here. So the editing is very similar, but your composition, like you said, you wanted to keep this stump because you found it interesting. So that makes sense. Uh, and you did a better job on the sky because you were able to bring a little bit of that blue color back in, whereas I think on mine it was pretty much blown out. And then these are new edits. Oh, here's a critique only. Critique only, not my photo. Archie Shep Dover. Okay. Typically I like to critique the editing in the streams, not so much the image itself. So I don't know what the original image looked like, but this looks really vintage. And this is more of a creative shot, so there's a lot of things in here that are, I guess, counterintuitive to how I would shoot a scene, right? Because immediately I can see the horizon's crooked, but then the windshield here is straight. But I don't know if if the windshield tilts in, I mean, this window tilts in against the mirror. Um, the exposure is about spot on, and the balance is not bad. I'm trying to think, for me, this area here and this line here, I don't know. I don't know who Archie Shep Dover is. Archie Shep CD, so it's the cover to a CD. I think, I mean, it's okay. It's an okay shot. It feels very derivative. The old mirror reflection of a couple, right? I've seen this kind of shot many times. And I mean, it's a nice shot initially. And if that was me with somebody, I would like the shot a lot more, right? But uh when it's somebody else, I don't know. It's okay. It's an okay shot. I wouldn't call it epic, at least not to my eye. It's not my style at all, this image. But I don't like because I just don't like crooked horizons. And the balance is a little bit off here. It feels very, very heavy on the right side. That's all. But that's just me. Okay, so I will I like this thumbnail here. I like this crop better. The way it's cropped here, yeah, I like this wider crop better because it pushes a lot of the weight to the right side rather than being very heavy over here. It's hard to explain. Let's go to my images that you guys edited, and then I really have to go. Um, so my original image is, where is it? Here. So I'll make this the reference. Okay. So let's do, so here's the first edit somebody did. This was from Scott. Oh, this is cool. This is cool. Very creative. Wow. Really, I mean, it's a very tight crop, but I think that works. This red and green. Cool. Okay. The next one is this one. So this is a wide crop. Let me scooch my original out. So you cropped in from the red truck over. Okay, that's cool. Good crop. Kind of a vintage edit to this, right? A little bit, where the colors are kind of punchy, but uh downscaled a little bit, meaning there's not a variety of tones so much. They're just a little more saturated. Okay, and then this one here. All right. Wow, this red, that's crazy. But this is a very similar crop that I did when I edit the image. I edited a similar image. It wasn't exactly this one, but this is what I ended up with was the same crop. It looks like you did a little bit of work here. Okay. So a little bit of a shadow boost in a couple areas, and then a shift on the reds here. They're kind of it's kind of a pinkish red. And then let's see this one here. Another nice wide crop. I like this because yeah, this is a problem with wide angle shots, right? Because you get a lot of foreground and a lot of in the top, and usually there's nothing interesting up here or down here. So I understand why everybody's cropping this way, and it makes sense to me. Okay, so this has got a little bit of a vintage sort of edit to it as well. And let's see, that's from Jeff, and this one is from Tim. Oh, I like this. I like this crop. This makes a lot of sense. Okay, we have a winner. So at least up to now, this is my favorite crop, and the editing is really good too. I like it. Poor Ellie's losing her mind. I must be getting a delivery. Yeah, I like this crop a lot. It's very, very well balanced. And then let's see, I definitely have a delivery coming. I wonder what I'm getting. I can't remember what I ordered. Okay, this is a good crop too. Really good editing. It's very, very realistic. It really took away that uh kind of cloudy, ugly day and made it at least a little bit nicer, more spring-like. So I like that. Very, very realistic. And let's see. Ooh, this is interesting. Wow, that's really wide. Just took everything out. We kind of have to and going black and white makes, yeah, that works really well, the black and white. Let me shift to a split view so I can just kind of see it. This is interesting. You could put this in like as part of a collage on a wall. This would be an interesting image to add. That's cool. Who did this one? Paul. Okay, good job, Paul. This is a very interesting crop. Like I would have never done this, but I can see it working as part of a collage. I mean, it works on its own, but I think it would really accent like a wall of pictures of old cars, and this could be like somewhere in that collage. Okay, and then this one here. So we have looks like a lot of AI stuff going on, but that's awesome. Sort of like a car graveyard, and then each car's got its own tombstone, right? One for each car. That's cool. And a little bit of fog. Yep, looks good. Very creative. Right, so I think that's it for today. Um, you guys, let me just catch up on the chat real quick, and then we'll call it. But oh, Pete, you just bought. Awesome. Yeah, Pure 5 is pretty sweet. I just downloaded it myself actually and used it on a couple of things, but it's I might do a tutorial on it, but yeah, Pure DxO does really good processing. Pure is a preprocessor, and then you can edit your images and whatever you want right from there. Um, but okay, no sound, not a lot of chat today. That's fine. I did all the talking. But I really appreciate you guys sending your images in. I hope you found it helpful. And anything I said here, of course, just take it with a grain of salt in terms of anything I said about your pictures. It doesn't mean anything. So you guys have a great weekend. What day? Today's Friday. So have a great weekend. I'll be back Sunday, a little bit later than usual, for a normal photo chat. And I hope to see you guys all there. Thanks again for being here.